Hey, Grant Cardone here, and I cannot wait to see you at the I Win Wealth Hacker Conference in Toronto. I haven't been in the YYZ in a long time, and I cannot wait to come back. Congratulations, by the way, on your big win. November 9th, you're going to have your second big win because I'm coming to town. This is for motivated entrepreneurs, committed entrepreneurs and investors who want to build massive success in their business and take it to the next level.
What's up, guys? This is Vince Carter here for the Wealth Hacker Conference. I hope you guys learn a lot and are able to take control of your future by learning from Irwin and Grant. Some good stuff here, so I hope you guys are paying attention, have fun, and be easy. Take care.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Truth About Real Estate Investing show with your host, me, Erman Cito. Do you happen to golf? I used to think golf was an inefficient use of time and poor exercise. I used to think of golf like fishing or darts. It's a great hobby to do with friends, but my investor friends more and more have convinced me that golf is actually great for networking and meeting fellow entrepreneurs. So I bought a set of clubs and giving it a go. Unfortunately, I really suck. If you have a look at my Instagram, I shot a 139, including a 76 on the back nine. I think par's like 72 or something. So I'm pretty close to double par, if not for whole maximums of 10 that saved me from really embarrassing myself. More than I already am. And this is at the lovely Hamilton Golf and Country Club this past Friday, which was the same host of the Canadian Open for the Professional Golf Association. Thank you to Charles Waugh for inviting me out. I suck at many things, golf especially, as I only golf 18 holes, usually at most once or twice a year. But now I want to learn. So I'm setting aside some time to practice, learn. I've taken a lesson and I plan to take even more. I'd love to take a lesson once a week. Trying new things is a challenge. And as a teacher of investing in real estate, I can draw parallels to the most direct paths to success. This is why I enjoy stuff like CrossFit, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I get to train as a student to see what is the best way to learn these new and difficult and challenging dynamic practices, and from some of the best teachers I've ever seen. So I have some tips for success in this area, including many areas of life and when learning something new. Number one, do it with friends. I'm golfing with friends who happen to be successful entrepreneurs, including my wife. This makes the experience and journeys that much more fun. Tomorrow, I'm golfing with a successful stock investor who sells options and owns 60 units of investment real estate. His name is Omar, and he's teaching me to trade. He really wants to get me trading stocks and selling options as well. And he's also one of our speakers at the Wealth Hacker Conference in Toronto on November 9th. So what makes Omar special? Well, he made $500,000 in 2018 from utilizing this little-known strategy. And he's been doing it for over a decade. He's actually trying to make even more money. He's trying to make $700,000 in 2019. So he's someone I want to learn from. Number two, take lessons. You don't know what you don't know. You can't see what you can't see. And so take advice from a professional who is who you want to be and has a track record of producing successful coaching clients to success. Almost every investor I meet wants to cash flow, and that's pretty much impossible to do where they live. So they are relying on local experts to guide them to make their correct investment decisions. Number three, don't be afraid to try new things. Nothing ever goes perfectly the first time. 5 or 10 years from now, you're going to look back and laugh at how you started from the bottom and now you're here. Ask any of my multimillionaire clients, and none of them expected to be at this point 5, 7 years ago, 10 years ago. And then think about the next 5 to 10 years. Think about how challenging things are now in terms of being an investor, and think of how much more challenging they will be in the next 5 to 10 years, and how much more ahead you will be if you started today and where you'll be in 5 to 10 years. That time will pass no matter what. How you spend them, or rather how you invest in them, is what will matter the most. With excellent guidance and coaching, you can really minimize your mistakes and maximize your returns. And of course, reach out if you don't know how to get started. I'm always here to answer questions. I'll usually answer them here on the podcast. Within a week or so, I'll actually do usually it's what's called an AMA, Ask Me Anything. So mine's going to be called an AEA, Ask Irwin Anything. I've already been compiling questions that people have been sending in over email, direct message, comments on Facebook, Instagram, whatnot. So feel free to reach out. I may suck at golf. So yeah, please don't ask me anything about golf or jiu-jitsu. But few others have the systems and a team of coaches that produces real estate millionaires like we do. Onto the sponsor for this week's show. This episode is brought to you by iWin's Wealth Hacker Conference. On November 9th, again, that's November 9th, 2019 at the Toronto Congress Centre, we will be sharing the best secrets of the rich, including the 10X mindset from Grant Cardone, earning six-figure income from Omar, who I mentioned earlier, not just six figures, mid six figures, just trading stocks 15 minutes a day from your phone, that easy. So you can do that anywhere. Earning income like a bank, passively, for better returns and more stable than any stock market investment. I'm more referring to folks that you hire to take care of your money. We're talking about private lending, and that'll be done by Jacob Ronnie, good friend of ours, who was doing private lending in order to afford to not have to work for 3-4 years. Investing in real estate, of course, it's probably the most successful wealth hack that we all know of. And we'll be covering other strategies such as apartment building investing, raising capital, Airbnb, student rentals, accessory apartments, land development, all those sorts of wonderful things from leading experts who actually practice, not just theory. And special announcement, we just confirmed Russell Westcott, author of an expert in raising capital for investing in real estate. He didn't use any of his own money other than like $15,000 of his own money to purchase over 100 properties. Tickets are on sale now at wealthhacker.ca. Don't delay. Prices are going up as we continue to sell out blocks of tickets. And if you want VIP, we only have 100 of them, and they will sell out first. On to this week's show. Mother of real estate, Gillian Irving, is an old friend, client, mother of 4, who had a very good life. She had a great job, already had a successful investment property before deciding to go next level, where she hired a real estate coach and she bought a whole bunch of houses, including several student rentals. She also started her own successful trampoline park, which is 36,000 square feet in Whitby, Ontario. She's had her own TV show on Rogers, and Gillian shares a story of our first meeting, how she actually bought a property the same day she met me. That property has been a cash flow gem and has nearly doubled in price in less than 5 years. It goes to show Gillian's preparation for action. Gillian was also kind enough to share her worst investment story in a large syndicated mortgage that included losses for her and those close to her. That is the truth about real estate. Not all investments are winners. This show is about sharing lessons, including from losses, so you may win in all of your investments. I give to you, Gillian Irving. So Gillian, we've known each other for a while.
We have since my very first investing days, actually. You were the one that scared me into investing.
Yes, I'm sorry. I should start with that. Like your family does quite well. You and your husband were doing quite well in your careers, and you already had an existing property that was doing quite well. Why the decision to expand so much more aggressively in your investing?
Well, so for me, the first property I bought, I'll backtrack just a tiny bit. The first property I bought was a duplex in this really up-and-coming area of Toronto called Leslieville. And one day I just went out for a run, and we literally just finished the book Rich Dad Poor Dad maybe like a couple of weeks before. And I went out for a run, and there was this for sale sign in front of his house. And I came back from my run, and I'm like, guess what, honey? We're buying a home. He's like, we bought a home. And because it's in such a fabulous location that I just couldn't resist it. When I went in, it was like, it's this most incredible layout. It's a beautiful, beautiful house in a corner lot with parking in downtown Toronto, steps away from the sort of 24-hour streetcar. So we literally bought that house on a whim, knowing nothing about real estate except for what I'd read in Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is that you should get tenants to pay for your mortgage expenses. That's all I knew. But 2 years later, we were able to refinance that property and pretty much take out everything that we had put in it. And it was at that point where I went, oh my gosh, like if I did so well in real estate, knowing nothing, what would happen if I actually put on my thinking cap, got really well educated, then how could I spend that money into something even bigger and better? And so that's when, I took courses, and I mentored with Julie Broad, and she connected me with you. And then I was like, I'm expanding. I'm going to buy homes, not necessarily in Toronto, but I'm going to go to the Hamilton way. And that's when I met you, and we went shopping for houses, and I was still nervous, right? Because I was kind of a newbie, and I'd done well in Toronto, but this was a new market and a new strategy. And all you said very matter-of-factly, like, well, if you don't buy this house, it will be sold to someone else in my network by the end of the afternoon. And I thought, wow, I can't stand it. I'm going to buy it because I just, if there's a whole group of people out there who know something I don't know, it all seems to make sense. Erwin is a trustworthy guy, and So I bought it. I think it was one of the first houses we saw together even, wasn't it?
It was the first time we met.
It was the first time we met. We saw a couple of houses that day.
That day, yeah, but we met in person like an hour before that. Before you bought your first property an hour away from your home.
Right. So
wait, hang on. Actually, how many times have you been to Hamilton before you bought that property?
I don't think I'd ever been to Hamilton ever before.
Yeah.
Anyway. But I knew it was a great market because I did my research, so I felt really confident about the market, and I knew again from my sort of training that it was all about surrounding yourself with a great team and people who knew, more than you did in other areas, and so that's why I always started my business, surrounding myself with smart people and people who are smarter than I am in other areas. That works.
So can we go back to your? Can we start over at the Leslieville property? Do you remember what year it was and what you paid for it?
So I bought it in 2009. So basically when everyone was crying in their soup about the market
Good timing.
crash.
That's great timing.
And it was still so expensive compared to what Hamilton prices were, but I bought it for $690,000. And it still cash flows. Yeah.
And then you had to refinance. Sorry, go ahead.
So refinanced it maybe 2 years later. I pulled out $100,000 2 years later. And then I refinanced it again.
You financed it twice in 10 years.
Yeah. And it still cash flows. Because the rents are going up so fast, right?
Okay, we're actually getting ahead of ourselves because you recently renovated it and re-rented it out. I didn't mean to get to this point already, but can you explain your new strategy? Because I don't think anyone's actually talked about this before. The midterm strategy. A lot of people short term is all the rage right now. I just recently my short term rental is doing extremely well, but you're doing a midterm strategy. Can you explain the midterm strategy?
Okay, so like you, I'm really drawn to the short-term rental strategy because I love the idea of these juicy cash flows. However, because my life is also pretty busy at the time, and always seems to be busy, the idea of having this super always hands-on and having your tenants coming and going actually just makes my mind sort of spin. So I thought, what is the balance between these long-term tenants, some of who never move out of Toronto and you can't up the rent, and the short-term strategy which seems a bit too busy for me. And I thought, well, I just myself came out of a renovation at our primary residence, and we needed to move out for 4 or 5 months. And it was almost impossible to find somewhere to go. And I thought, that's the strategy. The strategy is to rent our house in Leslieville to people who are doing renovations. So they don't have to promise to a 1-year lease. So it's midterm. It's not a short-term rental where people are coming and going every 3 days or every week. And it's not long-term where they move in and never leave. Mm-hmm. It's exactly that hybrid. And what's so beautiful about it is that people are willing to pay a premium to say, oh, thank goodness, I don't have to sign a 1-year lease. I'll stay for 5 months and I'll pay you more for that than market rents in general. And I love it because I put it for rent in our sort of neighborhood buy and sell group. And it was rented in 12 hours. It was gone before I even could think about it. So it was great.
What was it rented before the current tenant moved in?
Oh, sorry, what was the rent?
Before the tenant moved in, the previous tenant.
It was $2,800.
And that was for an apartment, right?
Yeah, it's a duplex, but it's beautiful. It's a really interesting, unique kind of space, and it does have parking. And it's, so it's, before it was, when we did some renovations, we fixed up the bathroom and stuff, and we made a sunroom into a full bedroom. So now it's a full 3-bedroom, and we charge $3,800 a month, and I think it's too low.
Sorry. What's the current rent? What's the new rent?
$3,800.
So you renovated. So it wasn't a massive renovation by any means, but you added $1,000 to your rent.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Is it furnished?
No.
Oh no, it's our own stuff.
Nothing. It's not their own stuff, so I don't need to do anything.
Right.
At all. And and I think part of the nice thing about this strategy too is because people are there temporarily. mean, obviously I would never give a product that I didn't love and that wasn't in great shape and that everything was maintained. But I think people are a little bit more forgiving when it comes to this midterm strategy because they know they're not staying forever. It's not their permanent home. So, like if there's a scuff on the wall or something like that, they're not going to be too fussed about it.
Right.
That's how I felt when I was in our rental while we were doing our renovation. We're like, you can kind of look past things because it's just temporary and you're moving out. But it is also nice to phone a landlord and say, fix the dishwasher.
Right,
so,
right. And,
yeah.
I think the short-term guest is probably a bit pickier as well because you're usually often being compared to a hotel. Versus you've kind of found you distance yourselves away from that.
And so there's something really, and because I've got a lot on the go, I just like that people aren't going to bother me too much about little incidental things.
Right. You don't have to restock toilet paper.
No.
You don't have to worry about reviews. Because that's like the lifeblood of short-term rentals, the quality of your reviews.
Well, yeah, and then you're sort of beholden to somebody else as well, too, which is hard, right? Like, what if you get a bad cleaner and they do a crappy job and then you're on the hook, you get a bad review because someone, did a bad cleaning job one day, whereas this strategy has all the benefits of a long-term rental strategy, but all the sort of benefits of the short-term strategy, too, where I don't have to have people who are going to be beholden to the landlord tenant board, I'm not going to have people who come and stay forever and so I can't adjust the rent, which is what I want as a landlord.
Wow.
Especially in Toronto.
$3,800 rent, folks.
And that's the lower unit. There's another unit upstairs. They're still the long-term rentals, but it's just a one bedroom up there and that's $2,400 a month. I raised that rent $500 when the last tenants moved out. And again, it was snapped up too quickly and I think, I underestimated it.
Wow. Do you think you would midterm rental the one bedroom as well?
You know what? I don't think there'd be as much demand for that. I think most people who are doing the renovation are more families, but who knows? They can always try it out. The fact of the matter is that the upstairs apartment's never been on the market for more than a day anyway. Like really, as soon as you have an open house, it always finds. So I could always try. I feel like I have a lot of there's just so many options with that house because it's in such a great location, in such great shape that I can try things out and it doesn't revert back to another strategy anytime. So
for the listeners, I want them to play that back again. $2,400 for a one bedroom didn't last a day. Where did you advertise it?
So I've always used viewit.ca.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I also now rent it in the Leslieville Buy and Sell group.
Facebook, right?
Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, everyone's slaying on Facebook lately. So the other thing I want listeners to understand is there's a lot of people who are worried about crashes and they talk crashes or they just or Uncle Bob at the barbecue talks about the crash. So even if real estate values have an adjustment, it takes you no time to rent a one bedroom for $2,400 and a three bedroom for $3,800. So yeah.
It's shocking. It's a really great product too. So I guess it also is a good reminder that, location matters and the quality of your place matters. Right. But this is such a great location too that it's just so in demand. Everyone wants to be there because all them great restaurants right there and street right there.
So say there's a price correction of 20%. So say 20% comes off the top for the price of your property. Are you hurting cash flow wise?
I won't change anything. I guess it's just, on your personal net worth statement, you see the number go down, but that's not what goes in your bank account every month. So, I've pulled out all the money out of that house already. I've redeployed it into other homes as well. It's still cash flows. I'm happy. I'm happy with that house. Not only that, but it feels like such a great asset for the long run in terms of my family. Right. Having as many kids as I do, and it's a duplex. I can kind of see my kids living, there together when they're older, or rent, I don't know, it's a great place.
It's foregoing a lot of rent for for a place for your kids to live.
Yeah, they're going to be much older, and they'll have to subsidize the rent somehow. It's funny, my kids are I want to live in that house. I'm yeah, no, not for a while. Maybe when you're older.
Will they be willing to share? Because you can rent out condos for not that bad compared to this. Jenny, what did you do before you what was the job that you left before you're doing all your entrepreneurial stuffs?
I was a market research consultant, so I was kind of a number cruncher. Yes, I worked at a market research agency, and we did, advertising analysis or brand analysis, all sorts of stuff for companies.
Okay. And yeah, it seems like cause you're really an entrepreneur. You're not just an investor. It just seems natural that many entrepreneurs naturally have investments because when they get successful, they don't want their money sitting around. And you've deployed your money into many things. So, can we talk about SkyZone?
Sure.
So you started with real estate. You bought a couple houses, and then you started a pretty fair sized business with a very significant capital expenditure called SkyZone. Explain to the listener what SkyZone is.
I'm the co-owner of SkyZone in Whitby, that I own together with my sister. And it's a 36,000 square foot trampoline park. It kind of looks like a airplane hangar. It's huge, huge, huge space, and it's wall-to-wall trampolines. And it's really just a space about active, healthy fun for the whole family. And so we started that opened up, in July of 2015. So
it's been that long?
Gosh, you think it's long? It feels like I just blinked my eye, and it just seems like it was yesterday that it opened. But
wow, I thought it was like 2-3 years. It's been 4. You're coming up on your 4th year anniversary.
Yeah, coming up 4 years this year in the summer, yeah. July 15th.
Why the decision to, wow, yeah.
Again, so the decision to open a SkyZone also, so my sister is a solar brilliant entrepreneur herself, and she was the first person ever actually to bring a trampoline park to Canada. So she opened SkyZone Mississauga. That was the first park ever in the country. And because she was the master franchisee for all of the GTA, she had these sort of obligations to the franchisor to open up a number of locations in fairly short order. And given the fact that they're pretty big and there's lots of, sort of capital investment required, she took me on as a partner to help her get her with B1 up and running quickly. So again, it's like she's a joint venture partner. So I partnered in with her because she's a super smart businesswoman herself who had laid down the tracks and whose track record made great sense to me. I had good insight into the business and the operations and the margins and all of that because we're a family. So it was really, it was an easy decision for me, to partner with her. And also, I just love I love the business. I love what it, I love what it stands for in terms of values and getting, teenagers out of the basement and away from the, video games and then, out enjoying good active fun. So, so it's been a huge learning curve too.
Did real estate play a part in that at all in terms of helping you raise capital?
Well, yeah, absolutely. You need to have capital in order to invest in that business. But my real estate education also played a lot in terms of the comfort I had when choosing Whitby as a market. So I've been doing a ton of research about where to go and where the demographics point me. Right. And Whitby was it just felt like such an easy decision, right? Durham region, as we all know, has been doing great. And I knew that because I'd been reading about Durham for years already prior to even investing in SkyZone, right? So all of the parts kind of played into each other.
Right. And it was more the zoning about the west side that stopped you from opening this side.
It was. I really did want to open one in Hamilton actually, but we had development charges that stopped us, and there was just all sorts of, red tapey things, but that made it way more expensive. Unfortunately, that took us from the west end to the east end, but both again had great fundamentals. So you could have settle down and put roots into either of those communities with great confidence, knowing that the underlying demographics would support the business, right?
Are you allowed to share what your business taxes are like? Sorry, the point I want to get to is I'm hearing this regularly, zoning, bylaw, whatever, municipality issues with investors and businesses opening up. And it's just ridiculous to me when they want to charge you a very large upfront development charge when the municipality is the biggest winner of anything that happens.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't remember the exact numbers now because it was such a long time ago in Hamilton, but it was multiple six figures in terms of development charges.
It was
if
almost
you add that already, it's just crazy, right?
Yeah.
You're like, what? How are you supposed to come up with that extra money? And it just kind of goes nowhere, really. So that was an absolute non-starter for us as a business. We took our idea and moved it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's too bad for Hamilton.
It's too bad because
it's too bad for us.
like the city is the biggest winner because they get to collect all those property taxes and business taxes and everything, which are ongoing, cost them almost nothing to like you're a business person, you understand when it's basically free money to collect taxes. It costs you nothing to make that money, but they want to charge you up front in order for them to earn that money.
Yeah, it was really disappointing actually, but
yeah. And it wasn't the province either, because I recall the province was on board. No, the region was on board with you. I remember. I think it was either the province or the region was on board. It was the lowest level of government that was the biggest hurdle.
Municipal. Yeah, it was the municipal charges that were just stop us in our tracks.
Good job.
So many, and then the economic development officer in Durham they fell all over themselves when they heard they were coming to town. They did everything they could to make it easy. So I don't know why it would be different.
Mm-hmm.
In one municipality versus another, but it was easier. It was easier to open up shop there for us, for sure.
It's sad. It's Hamilton's loss.
Yeah.
It's Oakville's loss. It's Burlington's loss. So tell me about Mothers of Real Estate. What's that all about?
So Mothers of Real Estate is a passion project that me and my two great friends and colleagues, Rachel Oliver, who you would know as Corporate Properties, Rent to Own Queen, and Monica Jazik. She is also a buy, rent, hold expert. The three of us kind of were introduced, I want to say it was 4 years ago too. And, we realized we had lots of kids between the two of us and that we just didn't feel like back then there were tons of women that were represented in real estate. And so we kind of allied ourselves and joined forces. And we had a TV show, and then we developed our own, fundamentals real estate training course, actually, which we're just so proud of because, at the end of the day, we feel like if everyone just had the basic information they needed to invest in real estate, then it could be so much more accessible to everyone that you could invest with confidence, if only you could just get the right training. So we now have an online course that we're super happy about. So we've been working hard at that, which is hard because we're like three super busy women who have our own jobs and stuff too. And so this is really, it is something that we kind of try to fit into the little pockets of our lives, and it isn't always that many of them, but it's certainly something we've been committed to over the years. Yeah.
So among the three of you successful women, have you guys discussed anything about how you're teaching your kids about investing and entrepreneurship? Anything you'd like to share?
Well, it's funny, I talk about cash flow and real estate investing with my kids all the time, and only my 18-year-old son is the only one who is that interested at the moment. Oddly, I just don't get it because it really is paving the way for their whole future. One day they're going to thank us. But my son is definitely interested. My older one, my younger one's not so much. I think the financial literacy training we do we were always talking to him about what we're doing, what we're not doing. I'm hoping it will sink in. I hope it sinks. Yeah, but they see us rolling up our sleeves and working at these properties and, just getting the Leslieville property ready for the new tenants last week. It was all hands on deck for me and my husband to get that done and organized, right? So they see, they watch, they are hopefully getting it.
Are any of them working, or have any of them actually worked on your properties too?
So all of my Hamilton properties have property management. Our Toronto one, there has not been that much to do that they would be able to help with. So this, they'll help with the maintenance for shoveling and snow removal and that kind of thing. But in terms, there's not much to do really. Tenant stuff is super easy because they're all A+ tenants. So there's not a ton for the kids to do.
Cool.
Yeah. So my son is taking accounting at university this year. So we're going to get him to start doing some of the books and I sit over his shoulder and get him to help with the bookkeeping. So you can kind of see the numbers and be able to navigate around it a little bit better.
What school is he going to?
He goes to Western.
Oh boy.
I know. He's having an awful lot of fun.
18. He's off to Western already?
Right. No, I know. It's crazy. It goes by too quickly.
He's going to take accounting. Good for him.
Well, he's taking business management, but he took an accounting course and he loves it.
Is he going to go to Ivy?
That's the goal in year 3. But it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to get in, right?
I'm sure it's hard to get in, but the sticker price to get in is, I think, even harder. So when I went, back when we invented fire, when I went, and it was 10,000 my first year, and it was 11,000 my second year. And back then, laptops were very rare and very expensive. My laptop was almost $4,000. This is 2000 money, year 2000. Right. And it was, compared to what we have today, it's absolute joke. Anyways, it is expensive. Do you know what it costs?
It is really.
What's tuition now?
What Ivy costs now?
What's his tuition now?
God.
For undergraduate?
God, what is it? It's like, is it $6,000?
Okay, that's not too bad.
And then you know what? Like, so this is the thing that burns me about London. So I have students in Hamilton.
Yeah.
And the houses there, the rents there are insane. He's spending $675 a month on a house with his friends. I'm like, wow, I really need to raise my rents in Hamilton because surely the houses in London aren't nicer than the ones I have in Hamilton, but the rents are so steep there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm like, your budget's, $550. That's what my houses cost in Hamilton mostly, or some of them are up to $550, and some of them are $500, and some are $525. He's like, Mom, there's no such thing as a house for $525 in London. And sure enough, there isn't. $675. That's nuts.
Okay, I'll make notes. My house is coming up available for September, so I'd have to work on that.
$675.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll put out some feelers on Facebook. Facebook Leslieville buy and sell. For listeners' benefit, Gillian and I were talking about University of Western Ontario. Her 18-year-old's going. The way the business program works there is you can only apply out in at the earliest your 3rd and 4th year university. Mm-hmm. That's why the first year is regular university. Undergraduate 6,000. It was less when I went to. I think it was like 4,500. Mm-hmm. That's not too bad a delta. But again, when I entered business school, it was 10,000, and now it is 26,000. How's that for inflation?
Right.
Yeah. How many parents have 26,000 to spend on tuition alone?
Oh, the tuition stuff is really hard. It's a big cost. Cool. That's good about refinancing houses when you need to, right? Yeah. That's the way to pay for university in a painless sort of way, is to buy a house and let it appreciate and then refinance it as your kids go to university. That was always the goal for that Leslieville property. I bought it in 2009. I remember that specifically talking to my realtor about it. He said, in 10 years from now, as your son's turning 18, you pull that money out and you put that into his university. Mm-hmm. And he was right, except for I pulled money out 2 years later and then more, 2 more years later, and but that's the painless way to save for university, to buy properties in appreciating markets and have that mortgage pay down working for you. Because the fact of the matter is, we bought that house because Jonathan and I, my husband and I, were working really hard at our jobs, and we're okay savers, but not great, and no one has more time to clock in at the office, right? So that for us was the painless way to save is these houses, which are the forced savings every single year. And when we think about what our mortgage pay down on our portfolio is every year, it's a pretty tidy sum. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and you don't have to spend more hours at the office or scrape together those pennies. It's happening all behind the scenes. I think that automation part is really the miracle.
Yeah, Evelyn.
For me.
Evelyn, our friend Evelyn, who's been on the show, her mortgage paydown is like $70,000 a year.
So, how great is that?
Yeah, she's 33 years old.
Yeah, she's a rock star, right? And that's how you do it.
Yeah, she's slaying it. And as we're on the topic of students and student rentals, even if you hadn't had the foresight to buy a property to pay for your kids' education, just today, one of our clients bought a 5-bedroom on Whitney in Hamilton for their kid to live. And even though they'll be I think they'll be negative cash flow like $200, but $200 for rent is non-existent. While the rest of the tenants pay the rest of the bills.
$675.
Yeah.
Right. That's a great.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. There was this really great house in London actually that I was going to buy. That I was thinking of buying for my son. Except for it's a funny story, but there are these 6 girls who lived there, and they all had like their little name tags on their door, and they had their chore chart about like who's vacuuming on Monday and who's doing the toilets on Tuesday. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I can't buy this house with these perfect 6 girls in it. And then my son and his 6 like smelly guy friends. Anyway, so I don't have to evict the perfect girl to let my son and his like friends. Anyway.
Awesome.
My bad mother. Mean mother.
So, Gillian, any other stories you want to share with our? You have so much. You've done so much. Let's talk about your family. Actually, can we talk about your family?
Yeah.
You have a billion kids.
Well, 4. I mean, it's a lot for these days, but yeah, 4 big kids.
In the ages, you said 18.
18, 17, 14, and 12.
You know, I still tell the story about how I share this with people when I'm joking with other friends about them having another kid, and they're talking about having the second or third or fourth. I don't think any of our friends have more than 3 kids. I remember the joke that you told me when I was about to have my second, and I was all freaking out. And you said, "What? It's just another potato in the oven."
Yeah, you had a potato one for dinner. Which is what I told my husband, and he bought it, and actually turned out to be a little bit more than that. We're like, what's another kid? Yeah, well, you know what? This is the thing is with parents and kids, no matter how many you have, whether you have 1 or you have 4, your whole life is taken up with them. So I'm not any more busy with my children than you are with your children, right?
Yeah, but you've doubled the children.
I do. Yeah, but the older ones are getting older too. So there's so much of they take care of themselves in a lot of ways. And but my middle son requires a lot more care just because he's visually impaired. But yeah, my younger one super independent bunch too. So yeah.
So I want to talk to, you mentioned Julie Broad earlier. Let's go back to that. How important was having, so shout out to Julie, even though she doesn't do this anymore, folks. So unfortunately, we lost one of the best, she's still alive. Sorry. she's just changed. She moved on in her businesses. Shout out to book launchers. But Julie Broad, was, in my opinion, the best, coach in the real estate business, when she was offering those services. How important was it that you had a coach on the level of Julie Broad for your businesses?
It was absolutely everything. I think she's the reason why I even sort of refinanced that house and branched out. I just knew what was possible. I felt so much more confident. I think just once you learn a system and you learn how to surround yourself with a great team, and you know how to analyze a property with confidence and ease, and it's just so much easier to pull the trigger, right? I think people are paralyzed by fear. I think in principle, they know how something works, and they just can never move forward. And having a coach, someone in your back pocket who can counsel you through your first purchase, and to point you to course material or training material that supports the decisions you're going to make, just makes everything so much easier. Because once you start moving, it's easier to keep moving, right? So having a coach is just so key, and having or taking a course or training or anything that can give you the knowledge you need is critical. But some people never act no matter what. But I really I aligned myself with her because she was where I wanted to be. So I wanted to hitch my cart to her wagon because she was someone who was where I wanted to be. You don't get training from someone who isn't doing what you want to do and doing it well, right? So she was everything for my career, I would say, in this field.
What was your contact with her like? What was the the coaching relationship like? Like, how often did you talk to her? Was it like weekly, monthly?
I'm trying to remember. I certainly did a couple of different coaching things with her. Like I did a joint ventureship, weekend with her. So I did an in-depth one. Then I did some coaching where you would do the online training yourself and then you would hop on for calls, like, I want to say like bi-weekly or monthly maybe. It wasn't a ton, but there was also, sort of email access to her so you could run her by questions, but also like, again, her Rolodex, was really important. Like there's something about connecting with people who are connectors. She was a connector. So she knew everyone in the industry. She connected me to you. She connected me to, Quentin D'Souza. She just connected me to all these people who are already connected. And I think that is an asset, is knowing who to talk, like who to be on the phone if you have questions about something, or whose shoulders tap if you have to, as long as you've got something to offer in return as well too. You're not just hounding people. But she really helped me get introduced to so many people in the industry. It was such a help. Yeah, such a help.
Now, you're a driven person, so I don't know if this would apply to you as much. How about the accountability? Because what makes Julie different than most coaches who are out there is she comes from a corporate background. She has proper business training.
Right.
What was it about her that's, I don't know if it's hard, I don't know if you can answer this, but there seems like there's so many coaches now out there. I was listening to a podcast about someone who's in the middle of their first project and they're offering consulting on the same work that they're doing while they're learning on the job. Yeah, let that sink in compared to that to Julie and what you do.
Right. So again, look, I think anyone, I think you just have to be really careful with coaches. You just want to find someone who's already at where you want to be. I love Julie because she did actually make me accountable. I love that. I've got kind of a competitive edge too. So we'd be in these group calls and, you'd have to say what you're going to do this week. And then at this month or whatever, and the next call, you would have to say what you had done or not done. And she had contests about like people who did action steps every day or whatever, or every week. And I hated not being done and complete. Like I hated to get on a call and say I hadn't done something. I remember being on a call and one girl said, well, this week I went to IKEA and I got desk organizers. And like, oh my gosh, like you have got to like step up your game if you want this to happen. Like that can't be your action item for the week, is the desk organizer. You got to get out there. You got to get out there. So yeah, I'm kind of competitive. So yeah, I do think that accountability is a really helpful thing for me personally.
Cool. I mastermind with folks who like show up with like 3 properties each month.
I know, right? That's right. So it's like desk organizer is not going to cut it, right?
Yeah, it's your first step. That's an awesome first step. I could probably use a desk organizer. I should put that down for mine. I need a desk organizer or someone to organize my desk.
Well, I have one other thing that I think is really important about how we met and how you have inspired me.
Okay.
You started the Basket Brigade in Hamilton, and then I supported Quentin when he started his Basket Brigade in Durham. Sky Zone would be always hosted, like we were the staging area for his basket brigades, and I would go and I'd volunteer and I'd offer the park to them. And then I started my own basket brigade, all because of me watching you do what you do and Quentin doing what he did. And so that part of our, connection has been such a lasting impact on me as well too. Watching someone, just watching someone like you find ways to give back in such a meaningful way. I think that just really inspired me to do something similar. And again, like finding systems like, okay, well, Irwin's system looks like it's working pretty well. I don't need to reinvent the wheel and Maria like gave me all her stuff, you know, like it was just such a great way to get going in something. Like, don't invent the wheel, just borrow what works from someone who's doing what works, and then do it yourself. It's great.
Honored. Yeah, your Riverdale basketball you blew up. Like you guys did a lot of families your first year, and you had a bajillion volunteers too.
Yeah, we did. We had a really successful year. It just was clear that our community was like just hungry to be able to. People want to help and they don't know where to help, and so we set
and
this
local.
up with super local, like right at the church around the corner from our house. And I handpicked these again, like super smart activator women who are like go-getters, and we raised a fortune in the first year. I think we planned to raise money for 40 families the first year and got 75, and the second year we wanted 75 and got 110 the first year, and then last year was 200. So that's just in the second year we got 200 families. It was wild. And everyone saying, how do we help? How can we participate in this? Everyone wants to participate in it. It feels like the most incredible community event. I think it's going to be enduring, like forever. I really do. Like, I think it's something that's going to last forever.
That's awesome. And, for those, I don't think people who will listen to this necessarily will feel this way, but there's a lot of negativity against rich people, right? You live in a very well-to-do neighborhood, and these are the same people who are giving back. I try to spread that message that it's the wealthiest who also give the most as well. Because how
can you give if you don't make more than what you have to spend every month? Like, that's where it all comes from. That's what makes, I think, if that should be part of the desire to make more, is to give more. Right?
Yeah, the analogy I like to give, or the philosophy around, I study philosophy on the side just for fun. The philosophy around charity, because this is a topic that's important, of interest to both you and I. Mother Teresa is a saint. There's no argument. No argument at all, right? Bill and Melinda Gates, they cure hundreds of thousands of people from life-altering or life-ending diseases. Hundreds of thousands, millions. They've saved so many people. Are they saints? I'm not asking for an answer, but think about that. Who has more impact? Maybe not say who has impact. Say they both have equal impact, but would Bill and Melinda Gates be able to have that kind of impact without the amount of wealth they've generated?
Right.
Without the equal contributions from like a Warren Buffett, and Warren Buffett manages I believe he manages a large part of the Gates Foundation. So again, you can't implement change without having wealth, and I believe charity and giving is part of being wealthy. You have to be wealthy in order to be able to do massive change.
Yep.
That's my 2 cents.
Yep. But what I also like about the Bass Brigade idea too is that there's lots of different ways to participate, right? So obviously at the end of the day, you do need dollars. You have to go and buy the food to be able to give. But there's certainly lots of people who would say, "Oh, I don't have an extra $100 this Christmas. Can I come and pack the boxes, or let me do it? Let me be a driver instead." So I just love that you can give in many ways, and it doesn't have to be dollars, but we like the dollars too.
Yeah. And I love the efficiency of the Basket Brigade as well, because it's not dumping on anyone, but we have many donors who donate in the 4 figures, sometimes 5 figures, and anyone who's been what a truckload of Costco looks like. How do you deal with that if someone gives you like $5,000? I'd rather have the money than to deal with
exactly.
Yeah.
Things.
Awesome. Gillian, how can folks follow up with you? Are you on Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram? Are you on any of these things? I mostly jest about the social medias. I question how important these things are.
I mean, the best way to get me I have my own website, which is investinstudentrentals.com.
Oh, are you still talking about that one?
Well, I mean, I certainly still have my site up. Yeah, I mean, I'm always, I'm not saying I always look for partners, but I will consider taking on partners. I'm pretty careful about who I partner with. Over the years, I've really only said yes to two people who I feel like are the right fit for me to invest with me. And they've been great. And it's pretty quiet. Like whatever. They either invest in student rentals for partnership stuff. And I'm on Facebook.
And then what about Mothers of Real Estate? How can folks find that?
Okay, so so for course information on the Mothers of Real Estate, for the fundamentals course, it's just mothersofrealestate.com. And then you can click on our course link there to see what we're doing.
Awesome. How can folks find you on Facebook? Do you want more Facebook followers?
That's just me personally on Facebook. Oh, and there's Mothers of Real Estate as well on Facebook.
Oh, there's one thing that we wanted to talk about that we didn't want to talk about. Maybe we won't name companies. Can we talk about that? Well, I just want to know what the lesson is.
Okay, no, you know what? Actually, at first I was like, who wants to talk about the things that don't go right? But I actually think there's a big lesson in the things that don't go right. So we're talking about the company the second mortgage company, the nasty second mortgage company.
Yeah, the large-scale second mortgage company that didn't disclose what they're investing in. Yeah.
Well, I think that was a cautionary tale for a lot of us. And especially for me. Started investing with this particular company sort of 5 years ago. Well, maybe it's even more now. I had been investing with them for 5 years, and because they started off with a really simple model of just second mortgage investment, which had really great returns, right? It was like 12%.
They're on houses, right?
Yeah, they were just single family homes, right? It was just really simple, easy, in for a year, out once the refi came through. And so, I did that with great success for years and years and years and years and years. And I started investing more and more and more and more money with them. As the returns just kept generating year after year after year, I kept giving more and more and more and more. And then they changed their model, those buggers, and they didn't disclose what they were doing. And so rather than being like simple single family mortgages, it turned into more complex multi-res buildings that had appraisals that seemed to be incorrect or fraudulent. Or
some of them are vacant land.
Well, yeah, and
they're going to build something. They're going to rezone.
Yeah, they weren't using as-is numbers. They were using developed numbers. And anyway, like there's a lot of investors who put a lot of money into that and who lost a lot of money. I think the losses are going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 65% or like it's huge loss. And yeah, so that really, that really sucks for an investor who's working really hard at building their portfolio to actually actualize those kind of like the magnitude of a loss like that. It's kind of hard to stomach for a lot of people. And hard for me. Like I was not happy for quite a long time over that. So I've just been spending my time now just trying to regain that money and to only invest in things that make good sense to me personally, right? Like things that you understand, bearing in mind that I thought I understood the model perfectly, yet me and along with a lot of other investors were quite deceived by it. Yeah, but it is a cautionary tale.
It's just odd because that company that we're not naming, I don't think there's any problem with us naming because they don't think they exist to sue us. But the owner had so many family members working in the company, and they all had money in these investments. I don't know if it was necessarily malicious or if it was incompetence or I grew too fast, too quick, without really keeping an eye on things.
Yeah,
they got lost.
I think when it jumped models from single family homes to multi-residential, I think this is like the expertise did not carry forward in that new model. So I think they really excelled and had mastered the single family world, but just did not that next layer. And how could we have known that they didn't know what they were doing? But again, like it's It's a reminder, like, don't over concentrate your wealth in any one thing. Like, I put too much money in there. I got burned. It's like, everyone always says, don't put, don't concentrate your wealth, like, spread it out, right? Many baskets, right? So it hurts when you get burned.
Right. And I was actually in my planning for the basket brigade when we have our foundation. My original plan was to have them manage the foundation to earn us our double-digit returns of cash for operating income.
I had no idea.
No, that was a plan, right? Because things were going so well, the model made sense, and then they went away from a very secure model to a very, to give some numbers, second mortgages were usually range from 8 to 12% returns. These were all owner occupied, maximum 85% loan to value. That's just maximum. It's not saying that's what they were doing. But then they moved to a model of like development. And usually, based on what the big companies were doing, like Fortress, they were looking for around the cost to raise money was around 35%. Right? So just right there, it's a very different risk profile. 8 to 12% versus 35%. But that was what they're getting into. They're getting to that risk profile, and we weren't getting properly returned, nor were things being disclosed to us. And I think the owner and his family and everyone that was close to him, they all got wiped out in this. So and all the investors got wiped out too, but it doesn't make sense other than too big, too fast without understanding what they were doing.
Yeah, it's a real shame. Sort of a blight on that whole industry. Because I do think that, and I do think their underwriter actually, who's in their company, was really good at what she did. She's just a smart ex-TD mortgage underwriter, and I think the skills she brought to it was always really good. But she just single-family mortgages, so I still think you can safely do secondary, like you can do second mortgages, as long as the underwriting is careful and prudent. Like you had development stuff, you just got to know what you're investing in.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm completely free for that world. I don't even think you can invest in that world anymore because all the regulators have shut that down. All the syndicated mortgages on large developments. But yeah, super simple, owner-occupied houses. Someone I know who needs renovation money.
There's something to be said about being your own boss, right? Is buying your own business, making sure you know how to make the numbers work yourself. You got your own little pro forma. If you don't, I can give you one. You go to investmentstudentRentals.com. You can get one there. And then like no one's going to pull the wool over your eyes. You know how the numbers work. You know what the input numbers are. You know what the rent numbers are. You're like, does this work? Does it not work? Yes, good. If it does, pull the trigger. If it doesn't, don't do it.
Right.
But at least you're not going to be surprised by someone who is giving you a bad appraisal or something like that. You just take care of your own money in your own houses. But you can trust financial advisors. I'm just saying, there's single family homes.
And you can trust yourself because the rest of your investments have done quite well, have they not?
Oh, they have. They've done great. And if I only this year, for the first time, last year, I invested in a pre-construction condo in Toronto. It took me like 5 years of, more than that, 7 years of cash flow positive investing before I would even consider investing in something that might not cash flow, because I was like, no, not doing risky appreciation investments. But I'm really glad I did. Like, I think pre-construction condos in Toronto can work if you buy the right one. So I've got mostly my investments have done well. That one did not.
Right. Now the condo are you going to hold that? Rent it out? Midterm rental? Give it to your kids?
I don't know. Like, I didn't think it would cash flow. It actually might. Who knows by now? By the time it becomes, I think occupancy is in mid 2020. Like, it might actually cash flow by then. If rents keep going up the way they want, it's a 2-bedroom, so yeah, maybe it's a midterm rental strategy too, right? As long as it's more than 30 days, the condo board in that building is fine, right? You just can't rent for under 30 days. That's what gets you stuck in your condo boards with those short-term rentals. You can do midterm rentals, no problem.
Right.
I think there's such a demand for them everywhere.
Is yours facing the lake too?
The condo?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just by the Distillery District actually. So we bought it 2 weeks before the Google City announced that they were going 2 blocks south of us. So it's really great timing for us because there'll be decent salaries that are in sort of walking distance to that condo. So that's really good. Like that bodes well for possibly cash flowing or just breaking even or maybe being neutral or just $100 under or something.
Right. Do you know what you paid for it? What you paid per square foot and what it is today?
I think I wanted to say I paid $800.
What? And
now my realtor Montu, who's also a rockstar guy, says it's $1,040 or $1,100 a square foot.
Mm.
And when you said 800, what, like too high?
Well, that's fantastic. I'm hearing, I was on King West just not that long ago, 2 nights ago, and we're talking about like 1,600 a square foot.
I know. So who knows? Maybe it's worth that. That'd be great. Mine was not more than 800 a square foot.
And you got 2 bedroom, so it's like 700 square feet or so?
767.
It's funny how with condos, everyone knows down to the single digit what the square footage is. My houses, I'm always scrambling. I'm trying to do mental math, trying to figure it out.
I have no idea, and I can't even guess. I have no clue what the square footage of anything is. But that I know, but just because I don't think of these purchases in terms of dollar per square foot, whereas the condo market, that's all the way it's kind of gotten sold.
Awesome.
So.
Awesome. Fantastic. Gillian, any final words? How about final words for like the new investor, especially the moms? Moms have to invest. It's funny that you mentioned like the landscape of women investing was limited. If I go through my client list of clients, I'm 50-50.
Are you?
Yeah, between men and women.
I think maybe it's because when we started, maybe it's changed. Look, I don't feel like there's not enough women anymore, but it just felt like at the beginning when I'd go to meetups that it felt like a sea of men out there and fewer women. Now I feel like there's more, which is good. I just think it's great to be able to, whether you're a man or a woman, you just have to make sure that you surround yourself with a smart team. That's always my go-to advice is to get around people who are smarter than you are.
Yeah, I think it's just maybe more folks need to get the good word out, or they need to hear the good word on really this isn't that hard, right? Because I always think at my meetings, like Margaret put Carol Diaz and Evelyn's together, and they're all the drivers of their business, and the husbands all support them.
And that's the same in my house too.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and I just love, again, like Margaret, you introduced me to her too. I do love, there's this great camaraderie between the women as well. Like, I feel like I don't know, Margaret is such a sharer, like if you ask her for anything or any advice or contact or help or whatever, like always will say yes. And like, that's the great thing about being in a community of people who you know, just that support is so fantastic.
And that's one of the nicest things about the real estate community is it's the most sharing community. Many communities are known not to share. Even at Ivy, it was, we were talking about business school earlier. It wasn't always sharing because people were looked at each other as competition. Other schools I hear are much worse. For example, I don't know if you heard this, but like other schools where a book in the library was a required resource for everybody, people would tear pages out in order to sabotage their fellow students.
That's
as
so
an
weird.
example. That wasn't at my school.
It's funny. I feel like the most successful women I know in real estate, like even in our kind of circle, are the ones who are the most confident that there's deals for everyone. They're the least likely to, they don't have any lack mentality. Like, oh my gosh, if you lose this one, another one will come. Like, I think the more confidence you have, the more likely you are to share because you just know you can make a deal out of, like, you can spot stuff or make a deal out of anything. Right. It's the people who are insecure who feel like this is the only deal or the only thing and they hold on so tight and don't share with those others who are just like most generous hearts. And I feel like those are the most secure investors out there. Right. The ones who are willing to share.
Right. Yeah, and like your friends Rachel and Monica, they're regularly speaking and sharing.
Always. Always. And look, it doesn't mean you always have to go for coffee every time someone says, "Can I pick your brain?" I don't mean that way.
Yeah, no.
Like, don't do that because people's time is too valuable for that. But always, I mean, Rachel and Mom, both great, incredible women who have so much information, so much insight to share, which they do regularly. Right?
Mm-hmm. Very cool. All right, Gillian, one last time, your websites?
Yeah.
Invest in real estate invest in student-rentals.com.
And then mothersofrealestate.com for links to our online course, fundamentals course training.
Got it. You guys spent the big money to get the .coms. I have .ca everything. Gillian, thanks so much for doing this. I know you're busy. You know, you have other kids to take care of other than me.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been great chatting.
All right. Thanks, Gillian.
Okay. Bye. Take care.